Welcome to this edition of the YAHOWAH blog. We're in the family hour. We're actually going to do most of our program on returning to the garden, although we're going to begin this evening's program with a song. It's good to see everyone. I think we have, five or six of our cast here joining me. I'm Craig Winn. We have Dr. Jeff in the house. Dr. Jeff has been part of the covenant, and we've been together now. We're probably over 20 years. We have Kirk, who I've been with almost as long, probably 19 or 20 years. He's our California artist and my very, very good friend. And JB is one of the few people who I actually enjoyed disagreeing with. You had a chance to send a note on that today, because you're such a thoughtful debater. And it's kind of fun when we find something that we can actually disagree with. But computer tech in Texas, always a pleasure to see you. And I there's a time clock over your image, but I would assume that you're back in my pool, Kevin. Is that correct?
Yep, that's right.
There you are. You are back in my pool. Kevin has come back from a bit of a hiatus. A family passing your father-in-law. And so it's good to have you back with us. We've been trying to get a vlog on the blog going, but I understand we have some technical issues. I only have about 400 posts on Facebook for us to go over. Yeah. Oh yeah, I'm ready. We could do like a 10-hour vlog on the blog. So it's one of my favorites. I really like that format. It's fun. It's fast paced. And so it's one of my very favorites. We have, also, Rich over here to my right. Rich is managing all the controls. There's Rich this evening. We may get Leah later on. I know that now she would be in the chat room making a contribution there. We may get her later on. She actually has stolen Wookie too. So Wookie would be the other member of our cast that is currently AWOL. So Kirk, how do you like your picture up there in the studio?
I like it very much. Thank you.
Yeah, isn't that great? I think it's really been appropriate here in this recent series, because you've got the old man and the sea, and this is the old tree and the sea, and we're talking about the old goy who is representing that tree and the garden, the tree of knowledge. And, he's pretty well rooted and old and gnarly and weather beaten, but, still standing strong and by the sea, which is symbolic of Gentiles, which he is an observant foreigner, and growing out of the rocks there. It all worked pretty well, I think.
Yeah, that's a coincidence, but it's a heck of a good one.
Yeah, it's perfect for our metaphor. So what I'd like to do is we'll start first with Leah's, I can't even say most recent song, because she has shared another song with us that is probably even more powerful in its lyrics. But this one is really good, and we'll do the next one next week. The story behind this song, as she shared it with me, is that we have most recently received a showering of new and enlightening information. We're learning at a prodigious pace, much faster than ever before. I would say that it's exponential in the sense that we've learned more in the last 2 months than we learned in the 6 months prior to that, and more in the 6 months prior to that than in the year prior to that, and certainly more in the last year than we did probably in the 10 years prior to that. We've been at it now 24 years, so the pace has really accelerated, which is kind of what you'd expect. You build a solid foundation, and it's just much easier. Kirk, I think when you started your glossary, it's each word was slow initially, but as you build a foundation, and you come pretty adept at it, it's much faster. And JB, as you translated, the more you translate, the easier it is to translate. And I actually find that if you go back and go over material you've been over 3 or 4 times, the insight that you can derive the 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th time from it is much greater than the first time through. So we are developing this increase in enlightening information. And Leah's always been fascinated by the two women that are presented in the Torah account. There's always a good woman and a bad woman, and both are presented often and in different ways, using different metaphors. And that she began to look and notice how Israel's long and embittered history with Yahweh sort of resembles her own. It's just like Dowd is symbolic of Israel, the good and the bad of Israel, just as he is symbolic of the covenant. Leah looked at her life and said, it's a lot of the things that she's gone through are reflected in the life of her people, of Israel. And she has also moved from country to country. She has loved the wrong man, which is also something that Israel has suffered. She has been abused while trying to remain sane and grounded. Again, something she shares with Israel. She has at times been pulverized by life. And on paper, her life looked good, even great. But in reality, she would say that life was like drinking a fine wine and having it taste like vinegar in her mouth. And so she could not find the missing flavor, the remedy for what she was tasting versus what she was actually consuming. And she wanted to enjoy the fine taste of wine again. And she claims that, and I'm grateful for this, that Yada came in like a charging bull. He's not very timid. And her life was transformed. And to hear her say it, she said that she's better for it, and the rest is history. So she wrote this song about the runaway woman and how when she encountered Yada, it brought her back to sanity, brought her back to a safe shelter, back a life that was full of flavor and worth living. I'll just share a few of the lyrics with you before we play the song. She wrote, she was removed from the land. And boy, is that ever true of Leah and of Israel. She went chasing every man and in fate unkind. She played the field. She was wild, a woman lost, nowhere left to go. She was, of course, the runaway woman, and she was playing a deadly game. For those that don't know, Leah is really, I think, other than Israel, I think she comes in second to Israel for the most time to actually be a runaway bride. She did it. She did it 5 times. So, you're definitely looking at your watch if you're at the altar waiting for Leah. But Israel has her beat in this regard. So the runaway woman playing a deadly game, tossed and torn and caught in shame. She bowed her back. She roamed. She strayed. But Yada's come round and has showing her the way. So she danced with the shadows. She kissed in the night. She got fooled and used till she lost the fight, bent and broken, but still wild as fire. None could tame her. None could shame her. So she is this runaway woman. She was lost in her dress worn thin. Dowd reported where to begin. Yada stepped in, the king's own friend, to bring her home. Love's bound to mend. So this is the introduction to her song. I think we'll play it now, and you'll have a chance to listen to it. It's a beautiful melody. The graphics are also lovely, and the lyrics tell a story, and it's a story that plays out in the life of Israel.
She was removed from the land when chasing every man in fate unkind. Play the field like a wild, wild cow, a woman lost, nowhere left to go. Runaway woman playing a deadly game, tossed and torn and caught in shame. She bowed her back, she roamed and strayed, but he had us come round and showing her the way. She danced with shadows, she kissed the night, got fooled and used till she lost the fight. Bent and broken, but wild as fire. None could tame her, none could shame her. Oh, runaway woman, playing a deadly game, tossed and torn, caught in sin and shame. She turned her back, said she'd never stay, but he had us come round and showing her the way. When all was lost and a dress worn thin, Dad reported where to begin. Yada stepped in, the king's own friend, to bring her home love's bond to mend. She knelt at the throne, head and heart lay bare, the zikaron in her hand, I lay there. Dowd's arms open, his love still there. No more running, no more lies, a restitution paid. She's the queen in a king's eyes. Oh, runaway woman, no more astray. A king forgives, her bride price paid. With Yada's hand, she found her way back to the loving home that's here to stay. Yeah, the runaway bride turns sweet and true, from the fields of sorrow to the waters of blue. She's a child of YAHOWAH, shining brightly back in Dowd's arms, walking in his light.
Goodness,
Great.
that is genuinely marvelous. When you view that song from the point of view of a Yehud, speaking of Yisrael, and the song applying to Yisrael, particularly what we know of Dowd's return, the homecoming being Yom Kippurim in year 6000 Yah 2033, and that the purpose of the sacrifice of the Adam of Parah, what's considered to be the red heifer, although he is not red, and his apparel will be red, and he is a man, this symbolized by a bull, not a female cow. But nonetheless, it's the sacrifice of the Adam of Parah on Towrah that prepares the adulterous woman. I'm not saying that Israel is sexually adulterous, or Leah. It's a reference to cheating on Yahweh with false gods, which is what Israel and Jews have done for a very long time through Judaism. And what God is offering this adulterous woman, which is the remnant of Yisrael, is purification on Towrah, so that she can be wed again to her returning king, Dowd. And that is the message of Yada, the purpose of YadaYahowah. It's what we are conveying to Yisrael, so that they are prepared to be among those who are purged on Towrah, so they can enjoy the family reunion and the wedding on Kippurim. So the bride has run away for 3,450 years and is finally in a position where she can return to her king, who still loves her, who has forgiven her, and who wants to be joined back with her. And I think in that light, it is really It's really a marvelous song. We have lost our friend Kirk. Maybe we'll get him back. He was the reason we were a little tardy getting started today. We love Kirk. Technology isn't Kirk's strong suit. It's not really mine either, but that's not a criticism. But we will do our best to get Kirk back as we proceed. With that backdrop, I do want to return to where we were at the conclusion of our last program on returning to the garden. And by way of introduction, God's story comes full cycle. We are going to return to where we began. And after sharing the creation account with us, of which the fourth day was the most insightful, and when God spoke, that said that there would be two individuals, a greater and lesser luminary, and they would serve as signs for the Moedim, these restoring witnesses to the eternal testimony, and that he restores his focus on those same two individuals, calling them the Etz Chayim, tree of lives, and the EtzDaat, tree of knowledge, in the garden. And in this story, he tells us about what went wrong with his relationship with Adam. There's Kirk. And the relationship with Adam was not good. And what we learned is that God caused the fall of man because he wanted humankind to grow up, to accomplish something, to go to work, to show that we could stand up once we have fallen, that we can be productive contributors to a relationship, that we're capable of listening and learning and being responsible. Because what God really wants of us is to be able to take us off this rock, this protective enclosure that's conducive to life that we call Earth, and explore the universe together. And it's really big, 2 trillion galaxies, each with a couple 100 billion stars, each with planets and moons, and who knows what else is out there. And that's only 5% of the universe. The other 95%, we don't even know how to calibrate it at this point. And so God's recognizing that, man, there's a lot of stuff out there. And right now we make decisions in 3 dimensions. We're stuck in the ordinary flow of time. And so we aren't very dangerous other than nuclear bombs and stuff like that. But we're here in a 3-dimensional world that is conducive to life for us. And he wants to explore the entire universe that he created. And there's a lot of stuff out there that's not conducive to life. And the distances are immense. And there are things like black holes, which are really, really dangerous. And furnaces that we call stars. And so before we're released to that and released in 6 and 7 dimensions, God has a reasonable expectation that we will listen to his instruction, that we will respond appropriately, that we are interested in learning, and that we want to grow based upon our diligence and in benefiting from being taught, and that we are reliable, we're dependable, and that we actually want to engage and make a contribution and can be counted on to do so, not to be a deadbeat, not to be a dependent.
Mm-hmm.
Why would God want to spend an eternity with someone who is a dependent? And why would he want to spend an eternity with somebody that doesn't do anything, makes no contribution, doesn't even want to listen? And that was the case with Adam. And Towrah may have been worse than Adam, although Towrah was not created for YAHOWAH. Adam was. Towrah was created for Adam as opposed to for YAHOWAH. So it didn't work. And there was no chance in that protective enclosure that it was ever going to work. So YAHOWAH said, we're going to find out whether or not this has any chance of working. And it came very close to failing once already. That's when those within the Salma around the Black Sea, where the Garden of Eden was, that region was flooded. It was an asteroid strike that caused the upwelling of seawater to Yahweh's description. And he regretted having created humankind and started over again with humans within the Salma, with the aid of the ark, and taught us a really valuable lesson about the ark. You know, what would you say? Any one of you, what would you say? What is the lesson of the ark?
Well, there's the 8 in there, 8 people that he saved. There's the I like the way it was designed. Quite frankly, that's a prophecy in itself. You recorded what you could do, and you could float in a boat. We couldn't do that today.
Yeah, the naval architecture of the dimensions of the ark are very similar to one of the super tankers today. It has that kind of stability in terms of its draft and its beam and its overall length overall. It is very similar to that, and its construction was with glue lamp, which make it physically possible to have built it, as opposed, which are much stronger and much easier to work with, solid pieces of wood. He talks about how it was sealed with the resins of the day, and then God loved animals and the animals of the region. He wanted to be part of this process, but I don't think actually that is the number one lesson of the ark.
3 doors to Yahweh.
No, 3 doors is interesting. Yeah, there were 3 doors in the ark, which signify the 3 options for human souls. We can listen to Yahweh and live with him forever in Shamayim. We can refute him and do as so many have done by being religious and political and spend an eternity in Sheol, separated from him, or their souls simply cease to exist. That would be true. And you said
Noah listened to Yahweh. He didn't argue with him. He didn't question him. He listened to him and followed his instructions.
That's it.
Act upon them.
Yeah, that's the key part of it there. He listened to what God said, and then he did what God had asked. God gave him a set of instructions, said, this is what I want you to do. That took a lot of work, enormous amount of work to do this. And it was, could God have just made a giant boat? Yeah, here's a giant boat. Could God have put them on board and said, happy sailing? Yes, but there'd have been no lesson learned there. Mm-hmm. The problem in Eden was they didn't contribute. They didn't work. They were specifically created, Adam was, to be observant and to work in the garden, to collaborate on making it better. And they did nothing. So the story of Noah is the solution. Listen to God and act accordingly, and you will find salvation. So that is the primary story of Noah and the ark, and God summarizes it by saying that he in fact listened and that he did accordingly. Now there are some other aspects of this. When God said that he caused the fall of man in the garden, what verb did he use?
The fall.
The fall.
The fall.
The fall.
Correct. And what was the name that God ascribed to the people within the Salma outside of the garden that he was so frustrated with?
Nephilim.
Nephilim, which is simply the plural of this verb nafal, which means they were the fallen. And so there is a story here. Noah was saved from the fall, correct?
Yeah.
Wouldn't that be the insight here? Okay.
Right.
Israel had another chance, another bite at this apple, if you will. When the spies went into the land for the first time, somebody from each one of the tribes, 10 of the 12 came out. And what did they claim that they saw in the land?
Nephilim.
Right. They thought that they saw Nephilim, and they were scared spitless of them. Were there any Nephilim in the land?
No.
No. They imagined it. And so they, just like the religion, you see men turned into gods in religion. That's what they saw in the land. And God says, so you've chosen to fall right here on your faces, and that's why there's going to be a pile of corpses right here as a result of what you have done. So there is another lesson in God caused the fall of man, and then he showed us the way to resolve that problem with Noah, who listened to God, did as he requested, and actually did some work. Right? So there's a beautiful lesson there. There's another lesson in the ark too. How many humans were aboard the ark?
Eight.
Eight. It's kind of an interesting number, isn't it? It appears in a lot of different places. One of the places that 8 is celebrated is which one of Yahweh's 7 Moedim features 8?
Sukkah.
Sukkah. Sukkah is the one. Yeah. And by being 7 days plus an 8th day, what's the message?
Eternity.
Yep.
Yeah, eternity. So, what does God say that He's going to do on Towrah relative to the conditions that we're witnessing now on a planet that is destroying itself? What did He say He's going to do on Towrah?
He's going
Wash
to
it all away, clean it up.
Clean it up and do what?
Oh, return it to the Gan Eden.
Return
the
it
same
to
condition.
God.
Exactly. He says He's going to return the earth to the Gan Eden. So on Towrah, He cleans it all up, gets rid of all the religious trash and conspiratorial trash and mother goddess trash and religious, political trash, militant trash, all that kind of stuff. All goes away. And He restores the earth to the conditions that are experienced during Eden. And He doesn't let us into Eden on that day because, well, there'd be very few people that would go back in, and the people that would be qualified to go back in actually were the ones that wouldn't need it. So we have 10 days after He does the transformation, and we have purged this runaway woman of her running away from Yahweh, such that she is now ready to go back into the garden, prepared. What happens 10 days after Towrah?
Yeah, reconciliation. Yom Kippur.
You're right.
Kippurim.
And what happens on that day?
Reconciliations.
Well, yes.
Dowd and Yah return.
Oh, Dowd and a couple of fellas show up, don't they?
Could arrive. Big event.
Yeah, big event. It's Yahweh, and some projection of Yahweh anyway, is returning with Dowd. Dowd is the big honker on this day because the way that Yahweh works, He always chooses to work through a person, and God's person is Dowd. And so Dowd is king. He's returning with Dowd. Dowd's seat of honor will be as brilliant as the sun on this day. Oh, by the way, what is Dowd's throne?
The ark.
The ark. It is. The Ark of the Covenant is the mercy seat. The Ark of the Covenant, Kaporth, happens to be Dowd's throne. And it's going to be as brilliant as the sun on this day and Yahweh's presence. Does that mean anything to us? Anything going to happen with the mercy seat on this day?
It'll be anointed.
It will be. With what?
Blood. The blood of the bull.
Blood of the Adam of Perah and also of
And
the
the goat.
Oh, yeah, that would be Yada
Elia.
and Elia. Guy's got a couple of guys. Got a couple of guys for everything. So Dowd's going to do what he did as he's depicted anyway, when the Ark of the Covenant is brought back into Jerusalem. And Obed-Edom, a man from Edom, is responsible for the conveyance of the Ark back into its proper place under the tent of the restoring witness at this point on the Temple Mount. And Dowd is then going to anoint it with the bull's blood and with the blood of the goat, the bull for himself, the goat for Israel. Pretty much the story of the Torah, right?
Pretty much, yeah.
And he'll be dressed as the high priest, just as he was in 2 Samuel 6. He'll also be, the rest of him will be dressed ready to go back into Eden, because
I was wondering.
that is the next step. Part of this whole process is you can't be right with God if you're uncomfortable being exposed to His presence. I mean, that's the message of the rest of Dowd being in the altogether, wearing nothing but a very, very big smile. He was exceedingly comfortable in God's presence, and that is precisely what is required of us if we're going to return to Eden. All right, so 5 days after Dowd returns and he's betrothed again to this runaway woman, that's why it was a good song here. What happens then?
They have to learn. They're cleansed, but they're not educated.
Well, yeah, but and so the cleansed and uneducated remnant of Yisrael and a remnant of Goyim as well are allowed back into the garden on Sukkah. This will be the 7th of October in 2033, year 6000 Yah. They're allowed back into the garden at that time. And why then, what's going to happen then? Why do we have prophetically 7 days plus on 8th day? And why is it Eden? What's the story all about? What is the prophecy of the Garden of Eden that replicates itself with Sukkah? And how do we know that Sukkah is synonymous with the Gan Eden? So let's begin. Why is Sukkah synonymous with the Gan Eden and our return to Eden?
Sakak, the verbal root, sakak.
That is correct. Sakak is the verbal root of Sukkah, and Gan is based upon the verbal root of Ghana, and both of the verbal roots say exactly the same thing: sheltered, protected, covered, and therefore this protected and sheltered garden is where we are going back to, and God has made it very clear that he's returning the earth to the conditions of Eden during Towrah. And since Sukkah and Gan mean the same thing, it's obvious that's the date that we're being led back in. What was in the center of Gan Eden that might be there again?
Two trees.
Tree of life and the tree of knowledge.
Yeah, a couple of trees. Yep, the Etz of Chayim, lives, and the Etz of knowledge. Why would it be called lives? Why, everybody wants to say it's the tree of life, but it isn't. It's the tree of lives. Why would it be the tree of lives?
3 lives. Dowd had 3 lives.
Well, Dowd has 3 lives. That's true.
We get two lives.
That's right. That's right. That's right. Because the remnant there is, if they're deemed worthy of the tree of lives, and we're going to talk about what would cause them to be worthy of the tree of lives, then they will get eternal life with YAHOWAH, and they will be released from this sheltered enclosure that we call the earth, and to explore the universe with YAHOWAH and inheriting it from him. So for them to do that, there has to be, the other tree has to be there, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yep. Knowledge.
Tree of knowledge. And the tree of knowledge is described by Yashayah in the 11th chapter of Isaiah as whom?
Yada.
Well,
He
children.
is, the Joder.
Joder.
Yeah, the Joder is. He actually says it's the EtzDaat, which is the tree of life. So the 7 of the 7 spirits of YAHOWAH, 2 of the 7 are EtzDaat, and the others all contribute to that. And so the Joder is the tree of lives, of knowledge. He is called by YAHOWAH throughout as para, productive. And God says that he grows from the Adamah. Have we mentioned anything that would be associated with an Adamah para?
Productive, yeah.
Yeah, that is the bloody red man of the earth, who is a productive bull that is sacrificed on Towrah to make it possible for these neophytes to enter the Gan Eden. And so the idea is 7 plus 1 is the way that Sukkah is set up. So you have the 7th millennia of man's existence from the garden. And that would be from year 6000 Yah, 2033, to 3023, 1,000 years later, where in this protective enclosure, we have 1,000 years working together. And God says there'd be 8 of us that are responsible for this. There's 8 specific people that are harvested on Shabuah, that are reminded of on Towrah and again on Sukkah. that there's 8 of us. It's actually the Choder plus 8, who are going to be part of plucking the fruit off that tree and feeding it to this mortal remnant in a way that prepares them to be like Dowd.
Yeah, make good choices.
Yeah, to not only make good choices, but to work, to be observant, to listen, to learn, to become reliable, to show themselves to be interesting and worthy of being released from this rock of life to travel the universe with Yahweh. We have 1,000 years to do that. And as many of the remnant of both Yehudim, Israelites, and Goyim who capitalize on what we're offering and teaching, and we're teaching more than just knowledge, we're also teaching a lifestyle of what it means to work, what it means to learn, what it means to fall and get back up again, what it means to be wrong, and then when you discover something that is correct, moving on with what that's correct and then building upon it. Doesn't mean you have to wallow all over but if you look at Dowd, when he was wrong, you don't find Dowd wallowing all over it or apologizing or rewriting his Mizmor. You just find Dowd growing from it, say, well, it was great. Let's move on from there. So it's 1,000 years to get that right. And we're going to start with clean slates. So I'm not going to anticipate how hard that job's going to be. In the past, it's been impossible. But I think we're going to be really well prepared to do this. And in the past, too, there wasn't the example was only among us. Well, 70 years in the first life, of which we only got to know 62 of them with Dowd in his first of 3 lives. There was the only one that wrote about Dowd in his second of 3 lives is Dowd. So he shared some aspects of it as we filled Pesach Matsah Bikuwrym. But Dowd's going to be present, and he's the exemplar. And let's talk about Dowd for a moment, because Dowd is the very thing that Adam was not. And that is the lesson that the world needs to appreciate about Dowd. Adam did not listen. Dowd did. Adam did not learn. Dowd did. Adam is not shown engaging in conversation with Yahweh. Dowd did. Adam is not shown doing anything and making any contribution. Boy, is Dowd ever the exemplar of that. I mean, he unified Israel, captured Jerusalem to be the heart of Israel, reclaiming its natural heart, acquired the Temple Mount, wrote the lyrics to about 100 Mizmor and Mashal. So he is the ultimate lyricist and writer, teacher in that regard. The national anthem, if you will, for the covenant. He defended Israel on 66 battles. And that's a man who's doing his work. He engaged. And Dowd is the perfect example because he wasn't perfect. I should say he is the ideal example. And the ideal example to Yahweh is not to be perfect. Because if we were to try to define perfect as being godlike, then God would enter eternity with a bunch of mini-me's. What would he need? Why even go through the human experience for that?
Yeah. Right.
And you know what else?
And there's nowhere to go but down.
Right. And if you wanted a mini, if as a person you want a mini-me, go talk in front of the mirror and see how long you can talk in front of the mirror before you're bored with yourself. Right?
Yeah.
You can make it a house of mirrors. You could be surrounded by mirrors and have microphones all over echoing what you're saying. It's really, really boring because you're not adding anything to reflect yourself.
That's
so
one of the
this
myths
idea of go ahead.
That's one of the myths that's perpetuated in Christianity, perfection. And the mistranslations also, that you have to spotless lamb.
Yeah, it's Tamim. The spotless, perfect lamb. Is there? You're a medical doctor. You've seen a lot of people, right?
I certainly have.
Have you ever seen a perfect one?
No.
No. Have you seen some imperfect ones?
Yeah, usually the question you ask sometimes is, what brings you here today? What's wrong with you? But many of my patients, you have to ask them, what's right with you?
What do you understand?
What part of you is working?
So,
the fact
that Adam did not is when he made a mistake, he owned up to it.
Absolutely. Beautifully.
Adam immediately took, not me.
Not me, man. It wasn't my fault. She gave it to me. In fact, it's your fault.
You gave her
to me, so it's your fault. And then she gave it to me, so it's your fault.
That's a great point, JB. Accountability.
I've never heard once where Adam or YAHOWAH took responsibility for anything. Dowd did, man. He manned up.
Mm-hmm.
And when YAHOWAH said more than any other attribute of Dowd that he was Sadak, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he was vindicated and vindicating, and yet Dowd said, I have more flaws than I have hairs on my head. Is there any chance that God is looking for perfection?
No.
No, did God say, this is my chosen one? This is the man that I'm calling my son. I'm saying I am his father. I'm anointing him as the Messiah. I'm bringing him back as king of forevermore. He's going to be Elion in my presence. He's going to be the very influence of God. And yet he wasn't perfect. Because God's not looking for perfect. Because, well, if he was, he'd be really lonely. And he'd be bored out of his mind if he actually got it.
Yeah.
So he was never asking for Adam to be. Adam was not thrown out of the garden for being imperfect.
No, just do something, guy.
God, do something. Make a contribution. Show that you can think. Yeah. Show that you're reliable, so that if you do make a mistake, you can own up to it, right? And he didn't. Dowd did. Dowd engaged. He made a contribution. In fact, you can't have a better there is never been a more wonderful, loving, courageous contribution than a man saying, I know what I should do. And what I should do is I should come back in the second of third lives in year 4000 Yah 33 CE, and I should serve as the Passover lamb.
Wow. And
I'll let my body be killed as the Passover lamb, and then I'll do the hardest thing ever. I'll carry everyone's guilt into Sheol, and I'll deposit it there, and then I'll become the living embodiment of what it means to be Bikuwrym, and only then is it appropriate for me to return as king forevermore and lead this remnant of Yisrael, because, well, clearly I will have earned it, and I will have earned their respect.
It
doesn't get any better than that.
It's the greatest gift bequeathed upon humankind.
It is. And was Dowd able to come to that by divine download?
Hardly.
No. As a matter of fact, every time we read about it, it was Dowd who said, I want to do this, and that he convinced YAHOWAH that it was the right thing to do.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I'm positive that YAHOWAH recognized in choosing Dowd that he had this in him, and that I think he recognized it would happen. I'm always cautious, though, in not doing what so many want to do. They want to pretend that God knows everything. But if he knew everything, this whole experience would be a waste of time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He specifically has to know how it all ends up. Otherwise, we don't get there. But the way we process it and get there has to be entertaining for him. Otherwise, there's no point to it. So I'm not certain that I'm certain he didn't give Dowd the download. I know how Dowd figured out that he should be the Passover lamb, because I figured it out for him. And if I figured it out, he could figure it out. And so he made that, he listened to God. He thought about it. He manned up. He said, I'll do this. And he did. And he did the hardest thing of all, I think. I don't think the hardest part was actually serving as the Passover lamb or going into Sheol. You know what I think the hardest part was? What do you think, Kevin?
Oh, I was going to say matzah. Going into Sheol with matzah, I think would That's the thing that would scare me. Anything else, I think I'd be okay with. But what do you got?
Yeah, I mean, well, I agree that that's by far the hardest part, and you're going to go into a black hole, and you're trusting the set-apart spirit that has been on you, part of you since you were 8 years old, and you're trusting that set-apart spirit to keep you safe and to release you ultimately from Sheol. But I mean, I'm going to tell you, the idea of having your flesh ripped off your body by Roman flagellum and being spit at, and then being tortured on the most excruciating form of death known to humanity, that's no walk in the park.
No.
I actually think the hardest part was him having to witness what he was going to do 1,000 years before he did it, and then write about it. Can you imagine writing about the pain of crucifixion and the anguish of going into Sheol, and witnessing it and writing about it 1,000 years before you would endure it?
No.
Wow.
I mean, somewhere along the way, wouldn't you say, maybe we come up with a different plan?
You think that,
You have an
if I write it
is there an
differently, does it happen differently? Yeah.
Yeah, is there an alternative to this plan? Actually, it's a brilliant plan. It's such, I'm sure Dowd didn't say that, because it is really a brilliant plan. And the brilliance of the plan is that by enduring what was less than 48 hours, but we'll call it 2 days of hell, Dowd earned our respect and God's respect for eternity.
Mm-hmm.
And is responsible for all of us being able to enjoy eternity, is directly because of what Dowd did. So if you look at the cost-benefit analysis, you and I had a discussion about cost-benefit analysis not all that long ago, and you look at it, and the first thing you come to is, well, the cost-benefit analysis of Dowd enduring these 2 hellish days versus the dividends it would pay for everyone, including for God, and for all of us who are going to be there. It's a pretty good call.
Yeah.
You know, Craig, somebody this week accused us of being paid.
Yeah, being paid. Well, I want to know which one of us is paid, by the way. who is it here that's being paid?
Well, when I move up to fries, that's when the big bucks start coming in.
Okay, there you go.
But the point is, we get, by doing whatever we can, we get the greatest thing at the end of our lives, or when we start over. The next, I mean, that's the payoff, is because you have Yah as your father. He knows who you are. He appreciates you, which is you'll never go. You just wow.
Yeah, you're never going to live to forget the idea of recognizing that forevermore, Yahweh, the creator God of the universe, appreciates what we have done. That's best compensation ever. Well, he's also giving us the universe. We're inheriting that. That's pretty good.
Yeah.
But we also get the satisfaction of knowing that every single person from the Dowd's time all the way for the next 1,000 years, every single person who gets to spend an eternity with Yahweh and gets off this rock will have done so because we decided that we wouldn't be like Adam, that we would listen, we would act, we would learn, we would engage, would make a contribution. And it's that contribution that, just as Dowd paid the price, nobody knew he paid the price until we shared it. And so we get the satisfaction of knowing that every eye that you look into forever, those people are there because of what we have done.
Come through YadaYahowah. Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely. They're all there because talk about a sense of satisfaction. So Dowd gets it one level above us, but it isn't that big a difference from where he is to where we are in terms of that satisfaction.
To elaborate on what Kirk said, had a discussion with you earlier, Craig, about the imbecilic post about being paid. It's actually a gift, the gift of Da'at, the gift of Binah, and the investment of Shemayim.
Yes.
That's what this is about.
Yes. And there is payment, absolutely, because God is quite clear that we are receiving an inheritance. And the inheritance that the 8+1 are receiving in particular is the inheritance of being able to birth God's covenant family and offering it to his son.
If I may, Craig, you mentioned that in your opinion, that the hardest thing Dowd may have had to deal with is knowing 1,000 years before it was to transpire what was going to transpire. How has it affected his herald to know approximately 9 years before to discover what is going to happen on Towrah in 2033?
Yeah, it was it's sobering, is what it was. It was humbling. It was sobering. It was Jeff. I think what you know is that, and all of you would know this, that I really enjoyed being anonymous, and the only really bitter blow that I've had in my ongoing, now it's 24-year relationship with YAHOWAH is when we came upon Towrah for the first time, as I was writing the observation series of books. And when we came upon Towrah, it was obvious who God was talking about. And now we know, because he's also the tree of life, so it's even more obvious now. And at that moment, I realized I'm not going to be anonymous. And the reason that was such a bitter pill, people clamor for fame in this world. But I had known what it was like to be famous, because I had taken 2 companies public. I lost my anonymity and became a target. And I lived in my second company when I took it public in a small town, Charlottesville, Virginia, where the University of Virginia was. We had by far the most people employed at my company. It's called Value America. And you couldn't go anywhere without being known. And being a public figure is really uncomfortable. I mean, I had a 14-page cover story in Business Week written about me. They didn't get anything right other than spell my name, but it doesn't change the fact, as a public figure, people can say whatever they want to about you to fit their scenario. And it's blistering. It's a horrible experience. If God had told me when we first met, by the way, you're going to do this, and you're going to be a public figure in doing it, I probably would have done worse than Moshe did, and just walked away and said, "Nah, you got the wrong guy here." So that was a bitter pill. I will tell you that, and then you get to the point where there's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds, countless hundreds of these affirmations. And somewhere along the way, it's just, you need to man up. God, what you have to say is that God expects more of you than you thought you had to offer. And he's trusting you to do this. He's going to give you the people to support you, and you're going to get it done. It needs to be done. And this is the job, and just man up. It's a limited period of time. You can do this job. And I was good with that after a while. And then I'll never forget when I was reading back in Yeshaya about this, now the 17th chapter, coming to appreciate more of what it said, and there was Parah there. This tree is fruitful. There's Parah. I said, "Oh my God." Leah was with me, and she says, "You know what this means?" I said, "Yeah, I know what it means." And just immediately, we went to Numbers 19, the Adam of Parah. It means you're it. And then it wasn't that moment that I realized how brutal it was going to be. But now I've read the prophecies. I've seen the event. It's every bit as brutal as what Dowd endured. And so your question was, how does it make you How do you respond to that sort of thing? You're being asked to do that, and we actually are not being asked. You're not, Dowd volunteered and sold God on the process. I stumbled upon it. Part of the process, I'm sure, is that my role isn't as important as Dowd, and it's okay that I stumbled upon it. But I did. I just stumbled upon it. To answer your question, it took a long time to get here, and I apologize for telling the story the long way, but I don't know of any other way to give it meaning.
No.
But my initial response was twofold. One is I felt a sense of calm that God would have enough trust in me that I would actually do this. That to have God write you into the story that way and say that, this is something exceedingly brutal, and God thinks you're capable of doing it, or he wouldn't have written the story this way, because you can't flake out now, man. You this is the way the story reads. So my first response was, wow, okay. If that's what you think of me, then I need to live up to that expectation. And the second response is that the moment I read that, my life changed for the second time. It changed when I read Towrah, and all of a sudden, now this wasn't just opportunity, it was responsibility. And when you read that you're going to make the sacrifice that's going to purge the final remnant of Israel, and then you're going to be part of the team that teaches that remnant so that they can get off this planet and live up to God's expectations, the next thing that strikes you is give it your all. Don't cheat one moment. Give it your all. Start early, finish late. Do this as diligently as you possibly can. When you get to the end, you want to be able to look God in the eye and say, "I did. I gave it. I gave it my all."
The reason I mention this, Craig, is I think it's important for covenant members and non-covenant members and anybody with two neurons to realize what this mission entails. Mm-hmm. Also, how you were cultivated from a very young age, just as Moshe was, mm-hmm. steeped in Christianity, mm-hmm. value America. Mm-hmm. Then you went into Islam.
Politics. Yeah, and then we started in Islam. Yeah,
and then
that was very political too.
You were just brought along, mm-hmm. and I don't think it was a coincidence the way you were brought along. And no. to cut to the chase is that without you, you're the fulcrum upon which the tree of lives gets accessed and realized.
Mm. Yeah,
no one without him.
Yeah, it's not a soul knows. We even had we spoke about the malcontents that are mocking the commitment that we have here and the value of the YadaYahowah series, which you see all around me, and they have annulled the whole idea of Dowd serving as the Passover lamb and are mocking it. And these are people who were once in the know. And I think that God we know that if you were once religious, I was religious, I was mm-hmm. political. Most of us were.
Yeah.
And that if you go from being religious and you stop it and stop being political and you listen to Yahweh and you go where his words lead and you're willing to grow with him and be responsible and act appropriately, what you've done in the past, the moment you stop doing it, when you become part of his family, it's all forgotten. It's so you start and you're looking ideal. Yeah, ideal from God's point of view. But it's a whole different story to have been exposed to all this, to have been part of it, and then to turn your back on it.
Right, like you didn't learn anything.
You've shown that you can't be trusted.
Yeah.
And on that situation, there's no point of coming back, because if you were exposed to it and then you turned against it, God's message and plan, then he knows he can't trust you. So maybe that's why they're so fixated on hashtagging my name and parlaying on that to draw attention to themselves, and fixated on just condemning everything because they've condemned themselves. So it's kind of like Satan. Satan's going to spend eternity in Sheol. Misery loves company. So the more that he can have along with him, the happier he is with the whole process. And I think maybe that's what's driving them. But it's a tough thing to accept. And when you get a little tired sometimes, you realize that, guys, we've got 8 years plus 1,000 years left before we're retired.
It's a marathon.
I'm if you add the four of you guys and Rich here for 5, and we certainly have Leah, and there's one woman in particular that has been really remarkable and consistent, is Mariah.
Oh, yeah.
And you're looking at the cast of characters as they were described on Shabuah, and we're getting really close to the team that YAHOWAH said, this is it, and I'm counting on you. So we've got responsibility going forward. Yeah, and we're going to toe the line. I've not heard one iota of anybody saying, no, it's asking too much. It's always, no, I'm in it. I'm here. I want to make that contribution. We have others that are really exceedingly helpful. Like Mike makes such huge contributions to the show in the background, a huge benefit fact checking. We're going to have Mike. I don't want to have him on this program. We just get too many people and nobody has enough time to express themselves. But really love to get Mike on a show, and I want to hope that my good friend Joe kind of gets back in gear, and he's been hugely effective in getting the books published and getting the site built. But I would love for my friend Joe, because I've gone through a lifetime with him. It's somebody that I know you can depend on, because he's an extraordinary individual, a man that I deeply love and appreciate. And so you want to have this core that we know that we can trust one another, and we'll get this job done, and we will live up to the expectations, because, well, we're not in charge. Right at the moment we are, but we won't be in 8 years. We're second tier, and boy, is that ever an advantage. Sign me up now. So we go and we become the second team under Dowd, but Dowd's no dummy. He learned from the best. YAHOWAH delegates everything.
Mm-hmm.
You're really good at delegation. Dowd's going to delegate too. So this is what we'll be expecting going forward, and it is a marvelous job. So these two trees branches are intertwined. It's why the Towrah is a stem, and why Dowd is called the Shemek, the great branch. And it's why the presentation of the Towrah in Yashaya 11 speaks of his roots, and it talks about him being parah, being productive, and why he's called, based upon the spirits of YAHOWAH, the EtzDaat, which is the tree of lives, and given intelligence, chokmah, given understanding, bena, giving the very spirit of YAHOWAH, so that you can speak for YAHOWAH, and having a great respect for YAHOWAH. But Dowd, second to being Sadak, right? The other thing about Dowd that made him special is that God's second most commonly used attribute of Dowd was Gabor. Man had courage, man had character, man had grit, he had confidence. And that's one of the 7 spirits of YAHOWAH. It's the one that sits right neatly between Etza and Daat, is
number
Gabor.
5. Number 5.
Yeah, you need to have lots and lots of the number 5. Ruach number 5 is what we'll call it. It's the scent of confidence. On a bull, it would be a pheromone or pheromone. Leah has been studying bulls lately because Yahweh chooses his metaphors because they convey messages that he once conveyed, and the role that I've been asked to play is that of a bull, and Gabora is very bullish. It is confidence, character, being forceful.
And combative when need be.
And combative. Yeah, absolutely combative. Gabora is a fighter, one who engages in the battle. And so this is our calling. This is why Leah's song, Runaway Woman, is just so perfect, because we're not here for us. Our ticket's already punched. We get the inheritance. We get to spend eternity with Yahweh. Our ticket's punched. So we're not doing this for us. And other than satisfaction, we're not going to gain anything by making this contribution. But the satisfaction goes a long way. Yahweh is, he's so good about the preparation of us and then sharing credit when we do anything that's worthwhile, that he's just somebody you don't want to disappoint. Yeah.
I think it was pretty remarkable, the Etz and Etz, advice and counsel tying right into Etz
tree of knowledge.
Dowd.
Yeah, and it's the just as the tree is made of paper, and these books are printed on the pulp of paper, and just as trees are productive, and there's nothing more productive in our world than words wielded wisely. They bring more fruit than anything else. It just like the tree that you draw, it's rooted in the rock beside the sea, and it is productive, and it stands up against the storms and
in the test of time.
In the test of time, and here we are. I think the one thing that we'll get to explore later, it's certainly hinted at, is that souls are undervalued. Bodies are overvalued. We look and say, that's Kevin, that's Jeff, that's JB, that's Kirk, that's Rich over there, that's Craig right here. We look at faces and bodies, and that's what we think we are. That's what people think we are, but it isn't. Our physical bodies are decaying, and they're useless to us. They're replaceable tools. The only thing that matters is our nefesh souls, and a nefesh soul is energy based. And so when you take your energy, your nefesh soul, as Yahweh will, and it's enveloped in radiant energy and light, which is that transformative effect of the fire as we approach it during the Moed Mikre. And we then have our nefesh surrounded by energy and light. All of a sudden, things change. We're empowered. E equals MC squared. We are, and you're able to go back and forth from physical to energy with E equals MC squared. Just in the energy state, it's so much greater. You are unleashed in time. Time is no longer a constraint.
Amazing.
And so if on a photon of light, time simply is. And that's why Yahweh can be precisely accurate in prophecy. He is not predicting the future. He's reporting on future history. He has witnessed our future in our past and reported our future to us previously. Well, the same thing is true with us when our souls are enveloped in light. It's why Dowd was able to witness his own fulfillment of Pesach Matsah Bikuwrym and report to us 1,000 years before he endured it, now nearly 3,000 years ago, of what would occur, being precise about how he would suffer crucifixion at that time.
You know, Craig, you
And
get
so-
to join that unique club, the
Yeah,
I am, I was, I will be club.
That is correct. We are becoming more like YAHOWAH when we're enveloped in light energy. And what I'm getting at is that we will no longer be stuck in the ordinary flow of time. And just as Yirmiyah made it clear that YAHOWAH knew him before he was born, and Dowd made the same comment. And it's important that Dowd made that comment because I do think that YAHOWAH, with the souls of those that he wants to be enablers of his story, that he's known those souls for a very long time. And that YAHOWAH has no issue in bringing them back and forward in time to accomplish aspects of his story along the way. And I think that's one of the things that we're going to learn, is that God has known us for a very long time. And he has come to be confident in our ability to carry this out, and we have become confident in his ability to enable us to do so. It's a marvelous collaborative effort. And you know, it's one of the things that I don't think most people have an appreciation of with God. And you're right. You know, I see so many feeds of atheists trying to mock the religious God. And what they don't understand is that if God had done for humanity what he did ever so briefly before the children of Israel, which is to appear as fire in their presence and speak directly to them with their booming voice, the likelihood is that humankind would have responded the same way as the Israelites did, which is, we're scared to death. We cannot handle being exposed to you. That's just the whole story of the naked in the garden, before and after ignoring God's advice. Before ignoring God's advice, they were comfortable being exposed. Dowd was comfortable in God's presence. He was comfortable being exposed. They were not comfortable being exposed to God. They thought they were going to die. And I think humankind at all, seeing YAHOWAH, would run. You know, I don't think you actually become comfortable with God until you remove him from a pedestal. You don't remove him. You don't see, which you say, you don't see him on a pedestal.
Mm-hmm.
When you start seeing God as an enabler, as someone who is working with you, someone who is supporting you, someone is trying to help you get this done, as someone who is approachable, then you start feeling comfortable in his presence. And this is, you know, such an essential part of where we are and what we're trying to do, is to convey that sense of confidence that we're comfortable in God's presence. We're comfortable with who we are, what he wants to achieve with us. And over the next 8 years, and then 1,000 years after that, we are going to get it done. And, you know, I'm just thrilled at the pace too that we can learn. You know, boy, look what's happened these last few months.
No joke.
It's so exciting to be where we are and to have so many things fit together so beautifully. And yet there've been, you know, challenges. You know, I'm struggling from a little glitch. You know, Rich has he was a great musician, and now the hands don't work like they once did. But you know,
It's only a matter of time.
It's only a matter of time
Everything's
making it go. And you know, Kirk, you're got a great smile there, but you know, you're a little under the weather at the moment. And you know, we all have our aches and pains. Dr. Jeff, you came out of a pretty tough period not too many years ago.
Correct.
Right? We've all had them, and even JB, you've gone through a rough patch here and there.
Yeah.
I know I have.
Mm-hmm.
And it's part of proving that we can get up and have the wherewithal to get going and show that we're reliable.
You know,
So-
Craig, you just described, you know, in a loving way, Yah is just the penultimate Abba, the penultimate
Mhm.
father.
He is.
Absolute
Yeah.
antithesis of a Baal, and
Mhm.
and the ridiculousness of resurrection, the body.
Oh, yeah,
It's
it's the
just-
souls. Yeah, it's the soul. The whole Christian concept of a resurrected God in an empty tomb is ludicrous. I mean, the last thing you want is to go back to a body. What you're trying to do is be free of this body. The universe is not accessible to anyone in a physical body. You can't even send a physical probe out to the next star. It's just never going to get there. They're touting, well, there's, the possible that there's life on a planet kind of like Earth. Maybe we think possibly that's, 40 light years, or maybe it's 20 light years. Okay, well, that's 400,000 years to get there at the fastest we could possibly go, being exposed to cosmic rays all the way. And oh, by the way, people don't live 400,000 years in their present bodies. So what on earth are you talking about? Why even discuss the possibility that it's out there when you can't get there? And so long as we got physical bodies, we have to get rid of these things to be able to soar with Yah, which is why the whole process that God is offering is so marvelous. And that's the payment. That is the reward. That is, and we're not doing it for the payment of the reward. We're actually doing it because it's the right thing to do.
Yeah. It's fun too.
And,
It
is fun.
Yeah.
I love learning, the translations, and then when you get to now in real time, we get to share.
Yeah.
It's really cool. That's my favorite part. I know, JB, I told you that when you started translating, that you would probably find the same thing I did. You can't just present the translation. People have had access to the material for 3,000 years, and it hasn't made a tinker's damn worth of difference. It's what you can learn from it that matters. And as soon as you've done the translation and you've seen insights and made connections, the part that's burning in you is to share it.
Yep. First thing you want to do.
The first thing you want to do. And it's your job is not complete until you have done it. And that's the joy of the whole thing. And that's actually what God is looking for. He is looking for us to have this sense of adventure through his words now, and his willingness to engage. And, all the way through, he is constantly calling Moshe and Dowd, for example, these are my coworkers. That's the thing I was trying to get to a moment ago, is that God is not going to be this big booming voice to get our undivided attention and perform a bunch of miracles, because if he did so, he would be undeniable. What good is that? Then there's no free will involved. Everybody's either going to be intimidated or run away or say, well, do me. Yeah, do me. But no, he's got to prove his existence, which he does through prophecy beautifully. Then give us a roadmap as to how to get from here to there, and then trust us to navigate it. And once we find those directions, to have the compassion towards others to share what we've learned, and recognize that we have to have courage to do it, because man doesn't like God very much. Man's much more comfortable with false gods. Men are much happier listening to men lie to them than they are to have God tell them the truth. And so God has chosen from that experience. He announced it with the children of Israel. He says, I'm good with that. I will not speak directly to you again. I will not meet with you directly again. I will work through people. And all along, he has found people that he thought was interesting to get this job done. And here we are. So, somebody wants to say, there's that whole cult out there that wants to, their whole purpose now is to say, not you, not true. They're not offering anything other than negating not you, not true. But the fact of the matter is, this was the only means that God had under the plan that he outlined to get us from here to there. And he's gone 3,000 450 years without a relationship with his people. They erased his name. They negated everything regarding his beloved son. They have treated him with tremendous disrespect. They've foregone the covenant relationship because they preferred to be religious.
You know, Craig, to do what's right as opposed to doing what's popular and convenient is the bane of human existence.
Yeah.
Nobody in this almost 3,000-year period has done the deep dive that you have done. I know I talk about it with Leah sometimes. It's like a lazy way to do analysis of what's been around for all this time. And then
It's always been there. It's just no one has done what we have done.
Yeah. But you need to have that Ruach number 5 in order to pull it off. Because you're going to have so many darts and arrows flung at you. It's etc. You know.
Yep. And that's part of it too, because God chose the Israelites. They rejected him. He has a fractured family. He has dealt with a fractured family from the beginning. And so he has now 6,000 years of dealing with fractured family, 4,000 with Yisrael and 6,000 overall with humankind. And so if you're going to represent him, you can't do it without empathy. And you can't have empathy. By the way, this job can't be done without empathy. If you don't care for other people, you can't do this job, because this job takes oodles of empathy. And you can't have empathy for God's plight with his people if you've not had to endure an insider rebellion. What did Abraham have to deal with? You know, Sarah's fight against
Hagar, yeah.
Hagar, right? Hagar. And, you know, and the fight between Ishmael and Ishak. Then you go forward in time and look at Moshe. His own sister turned against him, and then his brother turned against him, and then all of the Israelites turned against him. You couldn't have a man suffer from more insider rebellion than he did. No. And then look at Dowd. His son led a coup against him. His people tried to run him out of town. Their choice of king tried to kill him.
Yeah.
Michaela.
Michaela, yeah. She said, the same thing that the mother goddess says, you're making all this up. God hasn't designated you for anything. And all of these titles, all of this acclaim, all of the things that you claim are true about you and Yahweh, you've made them all up. And no. And the same response to Miriam. God says, no, I know exactly what I'm doing here, and I'm speaking through him and not you. And the same thing was true with Dowd. And so until you have an insider rebellion, you're just not going to have the empathy to do this. When God announced his divorce with Israel, who did he announce his divorce with?
Hosea.
No, what was unique about Hosea among all prophets?
He married Gomer.
Gomer, yeah, more the temple prostitute, yeah.
A religious prostitute, right? So if you're going to have a guy that's going to have empathy for what it's like to be married to a religious whore and in Israel, wouldn't you have the person that's going to pronounce your divorce marry a religious whore so he'd have empathy? How come Israel never figured that out? Why does Israel not understand that the adulterous woman of Numbers 5 is them? Because they're religious. The whole introduction to that is goddamn religion.
Goddamn religion.
How do you not get it? When the Towrah is finally introduced in Isaiah 11, the first 10 chapters of Isaiah are all goddamn religion? You guys are disgusting. This religion of yours is repulsive.
And they play it. Oh, that's not us now.
Yeah, that's not we.
That's not us.
Craig, how about how brilliant Yah is in that he brings it full circle? It began with the Goy. Excuse me, the chosen people, Yehudim. It's the Goy who brings them home.
It is. It's just so amazing. You know,
Obed, Obed-Edom.
obviously, yeah, Adam
Esau.
and Towrah were Goyim, not Yehudim. And obviously Noach and his wife and his sons and their wives, they were Goyim. They were not Yehudim. And then we're dealing with Abraham and Sarah. They're from Babylon. They're most certainly not Yehudim. And
Chaldeans.
yeah, they're Chaldeans. They're Babylonians. And then you finally get to Abraham, and God is saying that we're going to create this covenant, but the first son of the covenant, he's not Yisrael either. He's Jacob. He's giggles. And then you go and Jacob has a couple of kids, and there's a family reunion. I mean, a family split right there. The eldest son is kept from his birthright by a conniving mother.
Yeah. Those mothers.
And Esau, his mother cheats him out of his birthright. And so fractured family again. And then it's Jacob that gets the blessing. And then Jacob has the 12 sons of become Yisrael. But boy, did he ever have a fractured family. I mean, look at all of the antagonism and infighting between his wives and the concubines. And then when the kids are finally off on their own, they go and sell one of their brothers into slavery, and they go and trick the neighbors into being circumcised. And once they're hurting from circumcision, they go and pummel them and rob them. I mean, this did not start off well. And then you have the Exodus, and they all want to tell God to go to hell. We don't ever want to see you again. We don't want to hear from you again. We want to be religious. We want to go back to Mitzrayim. It's been nothing but a disaster. But you're right. Every person in God's story, early in the Torah, all the way through, you get to the point of Jacob. And Jacob himself is not a Israelite either. But it's only his sons that are called Israelites. And so everybody prior to that is a goy.
Yeah.
And the Israelites were chosen for the covenant, except for one thing. They didn't choose God back.
They didn't choose back.
And God said that he searched to find a single person among the Israelites that would listen to him. And you know how many he found over this chasm of time?
Zero.
Yeah, zero. The last was Mikael. Not Mikael, but
Malachi.
Malachi. Yeah, Malachi. Thank you. My messenger. Malak, and it said Malachi would be my messenger. And so Malachi, Yoel, Yahweh is God. Zechariah, the most memorable of men. Those were the last three prophets. And after them, we have 2,500 years, and God said I couldn't find a single one, not one. And so he has gone full circle, just like we began in the garden, we're coming back to the garden. He started with a goy. He's going to finish the story with a goy.
I mean,
and that's why he presents, the story of the observant foreigner, this Nachri. We always think, well, it began because our first recognition of it was in 2 Chronicles 6. So we always think it's Solomon's speech on a Towrah in front of the first temple, right after it has been completed and it is now being dedicated. And he speaks of the role that this observant foreigner is going to play in the last days to bring Israel home. And that's what we always think that's the introduction of Nachri, one of the most important prophecies that's given by God. But that's not where he first appears. You know where Nachri is first introduced?
In Genesis.
Devarim 29?
Devarim 29, that is correct.
Early
in the Torah. Deuteronomy, the 29th chapter, is where the Nachri is introduced, which is why Solomon did not have to explain who he was to the children of Israel. He's right there in the Torah. And so God told Israel that he is going to come full circle. The 18th chapter of Devarim, Deuteronomy, is all about Dowd. Dowd's the man. And we're going to accomplish this through Dowd. And he even begins the Torah, the first chapter, You can't get earlier than the first chapter of the first book of the Torah, right? And he's telling you the story about the greater and the lesser luminaries.
Yeah.
They're both, from God's point of view, terrific. But the greater luminary, Dowd, and the lesser luminary reflects his light. They both serve as signs of the Moedim, of the restoring witnesses to the eternal testimony. It's obviously prophetic of these two individuals, then the work they're going to do together. And then you turn to the second chapter. That's about as close to the beginning as you can get again. And he's introducing them again as the two trees in the garden.
Wow.
With Dowd being the tree of lives and the lesser luminary being the tree of knowledge that leads you back to them. It's pretty darn hard to miss. And you even look at when Yahweh is communicating with Abraham, and he says, all right, we're going to do this covenant thing. And the first meal that they have together is, God says, here are the fellows that are going to make all this happen. And he has the ram, the bull, and the goat. And then all the way through Kara, which we call Leviticus, called out, when you go through the Moed Mikre, who are the characters? The ram, the bull, and the goat. And then in Numbers 15, after the children of Israel have done the ultimate blunder, and they said, we don't want to go into the promised land. We want to go back to Mitzrayim and be slaves. We don't want what you're offering us. And God said, okay, well, everybody over 20, you're dead. Just over for you. I don't want to be around you either. And then his first presentation to the under 20 crowd, what do we call it, Gen Z today? His first presentation to them is, I want you to listen up. I got three guys. There's the ram, there's the bull, and there's the goat. And collectively, those three guys are going to be the three primary symbols and three men that I'm going to carry out this story. And he even goes all the way through this final remnant. And he says, that the bull in this story, he's good for something, but not good for everything. He can resolve guilt of omission, not commission. Because God's going to already have purged the earth of the overtly religious, political, militant, conspiratorial, anti-Semitic. It's only those who are victims of those things, but not perpetrators of them, that the ash and the waters and the fires pursuant to the Adam of Perah can purge. And he tells you the whole story right there in Numbers 15. So the story is everywhere. And Numbers 11, when Dowd gives up and said, God, these people are impossible. I do not want this job. Why do you hate me? Why did you give me this miserable job? Why don't you just kill me because I can't do it? God's very clear right there. I got a couple of guys. Don't worry about it. It's Dowd. Well, the Almighty is beloved, and my Dowd, his companion, his friend. This is not a secret that God has laid all of this out for us, and that he described the tree of Dayat as the tree of knowledge and the choder, or that Dowd makes it very clear that he is the one, and in Devarim 18, he is the prominent one who restores life, and he is the tree of lives. So it's all there. It was always there all the time. Dowd's Mizmor proclaim, particularly the 22nd, well, actually the first six are overwhelming, plus 22, 88, 89, 103. They all proclaim that Dowd is our Savior, and that he and Yahweh are in like mind. In the 88th, God goes all in with Dowd. So it's always been there.
I bring up what I bring up is a bias here, because as a Yehud and how averse I am to Rabbinic Judaism, I just find it so deliciously ironic that the Obed Edom, you think about that relationship to Esau, comes to bring it home, brings it full round, and puts it right in the face of you know whom.
Yeah. Yeah. The person that God was so frustrated with, and because he went off and interwed with Yishak's, not Ishak's, but Ishmael's daughters, and is really the forefather of what became Islam, and it's such an egregious thing to God's people. And his name, Esau, has him be the hairy and bloody red one, and which is symbolic of Rome. The Caesars are the hairy ones, is what Caesar means, and Rome was bloody red. And so, God is using that as a metaphor for this is really bad. But the bottom line is that Esau was cheated out of his birthright, a fractured family. And by calling this man from Edom in the 63rd chapter of Yeshayah, and 2 Samuel 6, the Obed-Edom, as the one who repositions the Ark of the Covenant, and who is the one, according to Yeshayah, who saves many. The story is that it is a non-Yisraelite that rectifies the inheritance of the family that was rejected through Esau, brings the family back whole again, cures that rift. It's a marvelous way that God tells the story, and the metaphors and all the symbolism, and we just need to get more Israelites to listen, right?
Yeah. Can I say something real quick?
Sure, absolutely.
Well, I just, as we were accused of being, I'm looking at the list. I don't know how to debate against that. I really don't. You have to be stupid to say, okay, I'm gonna put up a good argument that this is nonsense, and you're not. Yeah. I mean, come on, where do you go?
Oh yeah, I love the idea that you block people and you're not willing to debate them because you're blocking them from your site. I think that I made it really clear very early on that I don't suffer fools well.
Yeah.
And I learned very early on that you never debate an idiot. You want to debate an idiot, you are an idiot, because that is a really stupid thing to do. If you know that somebody has access to information, which they do, to know the truth, and yet you involve yourself one-on-one with them to try to steer them to the truth when they're trying to steer you away from it, that is an absolute waste of time. Now, that doesn't mean you don't deal with them. You do. We did a series of shows on them, and it's a 100-page document that was presented on the Facebook site that goes through Yahweh's retort to their stupidity. Mm-hmm. So we did counter them. Yahweh countered them. We used Yahweh's evidence to counter them, but we're just not going to debate stupid. I mean, if you're that stupid that you can go from being part of the greatest opportunity in human history to besmirching it, you are really too dumb to be around. In fact, we're not trying to win you back. We're delighted that you're gone. I don't want to be around people this malignant, this stupid. So the separation is wonderful. We'll celebrate the separation. Thank God it happened, and that they're gone, and that we have nothing to do with them forevermore. But they ought to be really careful about this idea of blocking, because I can tell you something that I have blocked, and that is their access to ever be anywhere near us, or near Yahweh, or near Dowd for all eternity.
Wow.
Now there's a block for you.
There's a block.
And
God does not suffer
Yah's
fools
example.
Any better than I do.
It follows Yah's example. What does Yah do to deal with the leprous woman?
Yeah. Isolation.
Yeah.
Hello.
Isolation, separation. And with Miriam, who said, "Oh, I too speak for God," it did not end well, because God not only used Miriam as the example for divorce. In Devarim, when her name comes up the last time, it is as an example of divorce. That is not what you want when you're trying to reconcile a relationship with Yahweh. But the worst episode in the history of the Israelites took place at called the waters of Meribah, right?
Yeah.
Meribah is based on Miriam's name, is it not?
Mm-hmm.
Do you know how Yahweh identified the location of the waters of Meribah and why it's called the waters of Meribah? Because guess who's buried there?
Oh, man.
Miriam.
Miriam.
Yeah.
Interesting.
The bitterness oozed right up from the ground where she was. So no, there's certain things there's just no coming back from. And this is an example. And by the way, when I saw this post and how totally repulsive it was, their attitude, just rude, ignorant, irrational, stupid, moronic. You saw that, and my first response is post it on the site just to remind people this is how dumb people can really be. But I said, yeah, I don't want to. In fact, at the beginning of the show, I said, guys, I don't have a problem bringing it up if it comes up as an example, as a learning experience. But other than that, let's let it lie, because they don't mean squat to me anymore. In fact, I'm delighted that they're gone. But they do mean something to Yahuwah. Yahuwah is not going to let this lie. And for lots of reasons. One is that he needs us to have that empathy. He needs us to know what it's about, because that's the issue with Israel. That's what we're trying to resolve right now in Israel. We can't appreciate how difficult it is to resolve that fractured family with Israel without having a taste of this. So God wants us to know about it, and he wants us to know that he's written many prophecies about it, and specifically how we're to deal with it based upon how he dealt with it. So that part of it, I think, is really reassuring and enjoyable. And I love what we can learn from this, and sharing with everybody what we can learn from it, I think, is exceedingly valuable at this time. But, as a group, there's like 8 real active participants in their We Hate Craig and YadaYahowah page. It's like, how many followers? I mean, it's just
There may be 70 in the whole one group, but there's less, about a half a dozen that that like to speak out all the time. Maybe 12 total that are that.
Yes, so 70 total, and of them 8 to 12 that are active little malignant demons.
Well, in their group, they're not all loyal to them either.
No. So anyway, that's there's people in that group that
very helpful,
of the 70 that are actually helpful, because I get feedback. But it is important. I mean, God would not have told us the story of what Dowd's wife, Michal, had to say if it wasn't important to God for us to know that. It would not have been important for God to expose the rift between Sarah and Hagar if it wasn't important for us to know that. It wouldn't have been valuable to God to tell us about the rift between Miriam and how he dealt with it and Moshe unless it was important for us to know it. There's no reason for him to tell us that he had Hosea marry a temple prostitute unless it was important for us to learn a lesson from it, right?
Yeah.
So, and the same thing is true here. It wouldn't have any value if it wasn't for the lesson that we can learn from it and the empathy we can draw from it and this understanding. This is a really small club. In the garden there were 2 and then there were none. And, it was all the way to Noah again before there were 8. And then you have to go to Abraham and Sarah, and there were 2, and then the 2 became 3, and then 3 ultimately became 12. And, that was a start. It didn't play out very well for a very long time. But, God's not looking for a big crowd. When it was time to present the ultimate fix for Adam, to show that it is possible for a man to work with God, to earn God's trust, to listen to him and respond appropriately, to fail and then succeed. Dowd.
Mm-hmm.
There wasn't a whole lot of people around Dowd that were on the same page, were there?
Not at all.
No. So it's, and when God went through the prophets, there's only like 20 of these guys that really have a significant amount to say about Yahweh. Not a lot of people. It's a small club. We're going to have a chance to make that club significant come Towrah, Kippurim, and Sukkah. And we'll have 1,000 years to work on it, but it's at this point, it's a small club. There's a reason that God speaks in such small numbers about all of this. But that's fine. I don't think God's the least bit concerned about the numbers.
No.
Quality.
Yeah, it's quality. It's not quantity. And the quality of that relationship is really ascertained more from what we learned in the garden of what Adam was not and what Dowd was. It's that comparison between those two individuals that tell us what God wants and what he didn't want. And so what he wants is listen, respond, engage, contribute, and show that you are reliable by when you make a mistake or you trip, that you not only get back up, but you learn from the experience, you grow from it, and go on from there. God's looking for people that are interesting, that he can rely on, that he can trust, that he wants to share eternity with. And so we actually have the opportunity to earn God's trust by listening to what he had to say and responding appropriately and then sharing it. That is why we're here. So we didn't get to a single statement from the garden. We were headed back to Bereshith 2:9. Maybe I should read it just so that we can say we did.
We can tease it for episode 3.
We did. So I will share it, and then we can feel that we did it. But I think that sharing the entire purpose of that story and what it means to us now, and what it means to everyone who is listening that wants to be part of forevermore, is the essence of what God is explaining here. And I don't think there's anything we can share that's more important than that. But here's Yahweh's words. It says, Yahweh, who is God Almighty, he enabled life to sprout up and grow from Ha-Adamah. And Ha-Adamah, you can say, is the ground and the earth, the soil. But it's also the Hebrew word for man and red. And so it is the term that Yahweh uses before Parah to speak of this bloody red man of the earth, who is a productive and fruitful bull. The entire tree, and it was written in singular, tree, Etz, productive, upright life with firmly embedded roots and branches which reach up to garner the light of the sun. It's from Etzah and Etzah, written the same way, to provide counsel and advice through diligence and effort on the entirety of the plan for the purpose of developing a backbone, overcoming challenges to advocate the proper response, no matter how painful at times, while even risking being shut out on occasion, because what you're saying is an open defiance of the schemes of authority figures. That's Etz and Etzah. He is delightful, according to God. He's desirable. He's pleasing. He is fruitful. And you could say it is if you wanted to, but it's written as he is. And God is speaking of this, the symbolism of the tree, and he's happy with him. He says, he's delightful. He's desirable. He's pleasing. He's fruitful. He's delivering a productive and treasured harvest. So God's all in. He's saying, you're doing a good job. This is what we wanted done. And he says he's visually portraying that which is clear and comprehensible, conveying a revelation. This is Moreh, which is God saying that this is a revelation from God. It's a phenomenal vision to ponder the implications of what can be witnessed, Ra'ah. And as a beneficial and good, productive and pleasing thing to consume for nourishment. Ha'etz, the tree of Ha-Shamim, of lives, of renewal and restorations, was in the center of the Gan, this sheltered garden, along with, in addition to, Ha'etz, the tree of Dayath, the knowledge, the acquisition of information, of good and productive, of Tob, of that which is beneficial and proper, favorable and desirable, agreeable and pleasing, as well as bad. raw, evil, harmful, wrong, erroneous, from corrupt compatriots, morally inappropriate, malignant, disagreeable rhetoric. This is Bereshith, 2nd chapter, 9th statement. In the beginning, Genesis. Laying it all out, isn't he?
In street parlance, Craig, in street parlance, who be the tree?
Who be the tree? Yeah, when you're now 24 years into this, and you got all freaked out when Yahweh says, you're the choder. And therefore you're enabled with the 7 spirits of Yahweh. That's never happened before. And you're going to write a sign, and you're going to be productive. You freak out a little bit because you say, okay, now I'm not anonymous, and now there's expectations. And then you finally settle all down at the end because he says, oh, by the way, you're nothing but a damn tree. Yeah, but that's really it. The choder is a tree. He's a tree of Dayat. That's what God said. And so you have to now.
Who's the tree? Ask the fellow who tried to pick up and destroy the tree in Numbers 11.
Yeah, Numbers. It was actually Numbers 15.
I'm sorry.
After presenting the God plan, his plan with the 3 fellows, the ram, the goat, and the bull. We read the story of the fellow on the Shabbat. And he wasn't picking up sticks. He was uprooting trees. It's Etz that he was pulling up. And it said, what should we do? Kill him is the answer. Why? Because you can't uproot those trees, man. You grew up the trees. You got nothing left. The tree is the answer. The tree is the one that has the fruit. He's the one that's delivering the fruit that will direct you to what you need to know to capitalize on the tree of lives. And without the trees, you uproot those trees and toss them away, it's game over. Yeah. And then, of course, it was the tzitzit after that was so revealing, where God says, no, the tzitzit is not this tangled, frazzled mess. No, it's a flax. It's the flower of the flax, the blue flower of the flax. And I don't want you to wear it outside like you're trying to impress somebody, you're being religious. I want you to wear it on the inside of the hem of your garment. And this blue flower of the flax inside of your garment will remind you of what happens when the flax blossoms that blue flower. What happens then, Kevin?
I don't remember.
Well, what happens when you're not in your head like, I'm right with you on this. When that flax blossoms that blue flower, it means it's a beeb.
Oh, well, that was easy. Yeah.
We are told that the sign of a beeb is not just that the barley is green and growing, but that the flax is in bloom. And so that flax provides the linen for the high priest, which is what Dowd's going to wear. The blue color is shamayim, but it's the flower of the flax that is in blossom when we celebrate what Dowd achieved in Pesach Matsah Bikuwrym. And so that's why you wear that little blue flower on the inside of your hem. I've got my blue on here today, don't I? Get away from the microphone, but yeah, I've got my blue. That's the intent. It's to remind you that this is the ultimate tree of lives, Dowd's fulfillment of Pesach Matsah Bikuwrym.
That's great.
And we got Dowd with the bubble gum and the glasses there over my shoulder.
Great shirt.
That's the hipster Dowd.
Great shirt, kahol v'laban, blue and white.
Yes.
Man, think about it from an artist standpoint. You got flax seed. You grind that seed oil. You've got the color that you're going to paint with, and then the linen is how you make the canvas.
Isn't that spectacular? It is the portrait, and isn't that what the Etza is all about? It's the first person to see the entire portrait framed and from the proper perspective that can provide counsel on the entire picture. And don't we have that picture over the opposite shoulder? Dowd with the sunglasses is looking at the picture that you painted of the tree next to the sea growing out of the rocks.
Yeah.
Yep. And what color are the flowers that are right next to that tree?
Not blue ones.
They were blue, aren't they?
Right.
Yep. So, and the fellow that is associated with the sea, this Ha-Nakri, who is this goy, synonymous with the sea. What color is the sea?
Right.
Blue.
Blue too. Yeah, there you go. So God's pretty consistent. He's and the guy that painted the picture. What color sweater is he wearing tonight?
Blue.
And you're swimming in my blue pool.
Yeah.
I have another observation, fellas.
Yeah.
Looking at the picture, there's a few crags in that picture as well.
Lots of crags. Yeah, crag is one of the inside jokes that YAHOWAH has of our relationship. It comes up in Towrah, where it's the crags of the rock that protect that mortal remnant on Towrah, and it is a rocky crag at the top of Mount Moriah where the fire YAHOWAH spoke out coming out of the fire. And there's lots of places throughout the Torah that YAHOWAH speaks of a rocky crag. And wouldn't you know that somewhere along the rain, I got the name Crag. Craig is Celtic for crag. Yeah, God doesn't miss a trick. He's been at this rodeo previously. Knows all about how the bull is ridden in the rodeo. He's been there and been there, done that, and doesn't miss a trick all the way through the story. You even got the Blue Ridge. It looks like the Blue Ridge Mountains before you. I'm sure there may be a different mountain, but the JB, you got blue there. The only one's missing the blue is my friend Dr. Jeff, but you got the YAHOWAH shirt on, so that gets it done. So we have gone the 2 hours that I said with the back today. We would not do a 2-hour program, but we survived it. We might still be able to crawl out of bed in the morning when the back has a chance to heal. Actually, it's no longer throbbing. You know that it's everybody's had back pain. So when the muscles try to stabilize I compressed the last vertebrae, and when you twist and you have a compressed vertebrae, then the muscles all spasm to try to protect the joint. And it's when the muscles spasm that creates the pain. And so they're not spasming anymore. It's just the irritant. And you go through the process. We've got to have some pain now and then just to
know you're alive.
Know you're alive. To say, all right, I can work through this. This is I've had worse than this, and that's all part of it. God wants us to trip and fall. That might sound surprising, but that's what he wants, because without it, we don't grow. Without it, we don't get any confidence. Without it, we can't prove that we're reliable. So that's what we have. All right, Richard, I think we are done for this evening. Everybody have their compensation check. It showed up in the mail, right?
The check's in the mail.
Yeah, the checks in the mail. Yep.
I have to declare it on my W-2, I guess. Okay.
Yeah. Well, probably not. But,
actually, I'll make a little pun here. On my W-Jew.
Your W-Jew. Did you know? To talk about Leah's favorite line. Did you know? Well, I did know, and that's why we share. And I wish everyone a wonderful Shabbat. And that we will see everybody probably on Sunday is when we'll do our next program. I have been in a habit now of spending the Shabbat studying YAHOWAH's testimony and contemplating what he has to say. And so we'll do our next program on a Shabbat. And we're hoping to get back to the vlog on the blog, Kevin. That program we do together is my favorite now. And we're all stored up and ready to go. And so good evening to one and all. Thank you for a wonderful couple of hours. Good night.
Good evening. Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.